안녕하세요. That's how to say hello in Korean. I am learning Korean. I just recently started. That makes me very much a beginner. And I wanted to show you today my daily study routine for how I am learning Korean as a beginner. I've done a little bit of language learning in the past. However, I've never really taken it super seriously. So before actually diving into learning Korean, I went through and read as much as I could on second language acquisition in order to understand how people learn languages and what might be a good method for me to actually learn Korean. The reason that I'm learning Korean is because I am kind of into K-dramas, and by kind of, I mean really. So I watch a lot of K-dramas, and I think it'd be really cool to be able to watch K-dramas without having the English subtitles on. That way I could just, have them on and I don't have to pay super lots of attention. I can just watch more K-dramas. So I decided to learn Korean because that's the easiest way to do that. So for the first 2 weeks of studying, I actually tried out a few different methods and routines for studying Korean. But I think I found something that I really like that really works for me. So today we're going to actually go through my routine and I'm going to show you basically what my routine is for studying Korean as a beginner. So I've decided to basically follow the Refold method of language learning with a few small changes. But for the most part, I am planning my studying around the goals that the Refold method sets. Now, if you're not familiar with the Refold method, it is a method of learning languages that focuses on immersion. So focusing on watching comprehensible content in your foreign language, even if you don't understand most of it, So I'm using that as kind of my guide and direction for this whole process, at least at this stage in the process. So with that, I have my big goal of let's learn Korean and watch K-dramas and whatnot. But I have set smaller goals for the initial beginner stages of this journey. And those smaller goals are: 1, be able to read and write Hangul, which is the writing system in Korean. It looks kind of like this. I don't know if you guys can see that. So that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to learn the 1,000 most common Korean vocab words. That way I have some basis when I'm actually watching content to pick out certain words. And 3 is I want to learn some basics of grammar. Now, the grammar of Korean is pretty complex. In fact, I've heard that people even at higher level stages can get really confused about how sentences are put together and whatnot. But I'm not going to focus a ton on grammar studies, but I do want to have at least a little bit of the basics down so that when I'm watching stuff, I at least can understand, some things, is this present tense, is it past tense, that sort of thing. So with that in mind, I am going to show you how I study Korean in my daily routine. So the tools that I use for this routine are my iPad. Now I have an iPad mini, and it is my main study device, I think, for Korean. I also have a notebook that I can write in and some index cards, and I will show you how I use these. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I do my monthly lesson for the day. So monthly gives you a free lesson every day. I don't pay for the paid subscription of monthly, and I'm also not using monthly for vocab learning. I'm mainly just using monthly for practice. So what I'll do with monthly is make a card. So today is the 6th, October 6th, 23. What I'm going to do is just write down the vocab and the sentences on this card. This is kind of more writing practice and listening and reading practice than it is vocab and grammar practice. reason I like doing this is because the 3 sentences that they give you are usually related in some way. So you can actually see, like, by comparing them, you can kind of see differences in grammar points. And I can also pick out some grammar points that I have been studying using the other apps that I'm using for actually studying grammar. So it's just a nice way of just seeing sentences, a variety of sentences, you know, over the course of a month or so. So for example, like this sentence here, I want to buy a ring. And this sentence here, I want to buy a ring and earrings. So the difference between these 2 sentences is the like and earrings part, right? So you can compare them. So you can see like this part here and that are the same. And then that's of course and then earrings. And then that part's the same because those are the particles. So it's a good way of, like, even before I learn the grammar or the sentence structures, I am I'm seeing sentences and I am able to kind of work out what parts of the sentences mean just based on comparing the sentences. And a lot of times if you do this like every single day, like here's yesterday's, for example, they usually have like a theme over a few days. And so like, I want to buy, and then here, I want to buy a present. So you can use sentences like across days as well for your comparisons. So I just spend a few minutes just looking at the sentences after I've done my cards and just comparing them. It's a way to get familiarity with the language for me. All right, once I'm done with my card and my lesson, I put the card to the side in a little pile I have over there. So I clearly don't do this every single day, but I try to. So it goes. So then after I do my Monday lesson, which usually doesn't take very long, like it's taken me a little bit longer today because I've been explaining along with it, but I will do a lesson in Mirinae. Now this app is cool if you've not seen it before because it also lets you enter Korean sentences and it will analyze them for you, which is a really cool way of, like, if you have a sentence that you don't understand how it works, you can just put it in here and the app will actually tell you how it works. It's like super cool. But I use the lessons feature. So I've just recently started doing this, so we're going to do this lesson here today. I really like the interface of these lessons. Like, it presents a very limited amount of information at a time, but it gives you a good amount of detail about each grammar point or particle or whatever it's teaching you for that day. It also, as you will see, it gives you examples of each point being used in like real, like K-pop material or actual videos on the internet. Presents like a summary chart, so you can like understand the variants, and gives you examples of each variant, which you can make bigger by doing that. I sometimes will write these variants examples down, like I did yesterday for yesterday's lesson, but I don't plan to always write them down. It depends on how complex the particular point we're talking about is.
커피가 맛있어요.
I do go through and listen to every single sentence because I want to be able to hear it. So I'll listen to it multiple times and we'll kind of read along. And the reason I do it multiple times is because usually the first time when I hear it, I can't hear every bit in the sentence. So I will read and repeat this, listening to it until what I hear matches up with what I can see. All right, and this is the last section where it shows you media, just basically examples from media using whatever you've learned. Okay, so that is that lesson for the day. All right, so the next step in my learning routine is to do Anki. So I have one of these, the Samsung flip phones. So I always do Anki using the outside screen of the Flip 5 because to me it's just easier to hold in my hand. So, but this works on pretty much any phone, or it's even on the computer. It's just Anki. So I use the Refold Korean 1K deck. I have this Sounds of Korean deck on here too, but I don't actually use that at this point. We'll see. At some point I might end up using that, but I just downloaded it to check it out. As you can see, I do 10 new cards a day, although on really busy days I'll actually lower that, so I'll change the number on the day just to kind of adjust it. If I'm having a super busy day, I'll lower it to 5 or sometimes even 3, and if I'm having a day where I can study a lot longer, I'll actually increase this to 15 occasionally. So the way this works is you just you have the Korean, and the new item is in purple, or the item that is being tested is in purple, and the rest is in black. So you basically you can read it or you can listen to it.
오늘 고기를 먹었어요.
And then to myself, I say what I think the purple word is. Sometimes I have to listen to it a few times. I'm still practicing my listening skills. They're definitely not very good. I mean, I'm only 2 weeks into this, so.
오늘 고기를 먹었어요.
So that's meat. I know that one pretty well. And then once you say show answer, you can listen to the word. It gives you the definition, and then it also will give you the sentence definition.
오늘 고기를 먹었어요.
And a picture. So usually what I do is I try to listen to the sentence and see if I can understand the whole sentence, not just the purple word. And that also helps me build my vocabulary for the other items in the sentence.
오늘 고기를 먹었어요.
So yeah, this process takes me about an hour. It says 34 minutes, but it's wrong. It usually takes me about an hour to do. And I typically do it sometime in the morning. Okay, so once I have done those things, which won't take a definitive amount of time, the rest of my Korean for the day is going to be content. I watch a lot of K-dramas, as I mentioned before, so a lot of my time is spent being immersed in Korean with K-dramas. Now, at this point, I am mostly watching with English subtitles. I'm finding that is actually helping me learn because I'm actively listening to the Korean, but then I'm using the English to understand what they're saying. And if I hear an interesting phrase, a lot of times I will go back and listen to it a few times, hit the rewind button. And I have learned a lot just from spending hours a day watching K-dramas. I also have been listening to K-pop so that when I'm cleaning the house or if I'm in my car, K-pop would be playing, even though I don't understand K-pop. So technically it's not comprehensible input, but it does get me familiar with hearing Korean spoken. I found a Korean news app that I have downloaded that I will occasionally also put on just so I can hear spoken Korean and kind of get familiar with it. So for the most part, the rest of my learning is just going through Netflix or an app called Viki and picking out a drama to watch and watching it and just actively thinking about the language and trying to actively listen as I am watching my dramas. That's how I mix Korean in with a good number of hours in the day. All right, well, 감사합니다. Thank you for listening, and I hope this is interesting. If you want to follow my Korean language learning journey along with my other goals and personal development work, feel free to subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, have fun, and cheers.